Hi, I'm Evelyn and this is the story of how one family stole over $500,000 using MY name. They said it was for the family. They didn't ask, they just took. If you've ever been the one who always stayed quiet, who always did the right thing, this story might feel a little too familiar. But trust me, staying silent don't keep the peace. Sometimes it just buries the truth until someone finally digs it up. They didn't ask. They announced. We're taking out a mortgage for your sister. You'll help, of course. It's your duty. The roast chicken was dry, but I kept chewing. Slowly, deliberately. And my knife scraped the ceramic plate with a screech sharp enough to flinch. No one looked up. Chelsea giggled about some yoga retreat she wanted to attend next spring. Her wine glass dancing between her fingers. I placed my fork down. They didn't waste time. Her voice slid into the room like a cold front. We've decided to co-sign a mortgage for Seychelles expansion. It's quite substantial. $523. My father, Robert, nodded. Not his own idea, I could tell. The man barely made a contact with me anymore. And Diane continued brushing an imaginary crumb from the tablecloth. He'll help with the payments. A few thousand a month. It's only fair. You've been living alone all these years. No children, no husband. You've had your chance to build your life. This is your time to support the family. The chandelier above you trembled with the hum of the heating system. Outside, the maples had turned brittle gold autumn cloak in Albany in a deceptive calm. Inside, I felt frostbite into my spine. Chelsea didn't look ashamed. She smirked her lipstick as shade too bright for a family dinner. I said nothing. Just sipped my water, ice cold. Unlike the warmth everyone was pretending to project. You're not seeing anything, Diane pressed. Don't make this difficult, Evelyn. It's not like we're asking. This is for Seychelles' future. Your sister has potential. She just needs a push. A push. That push was worth over $500,000. I thought of birthdays. Past balloons cake. That horrible red velvet one Chelsea liked and mine quietly skipped every June. I remembered Christmas when my bonus had covered the wilderness gifts and the duty-scented candle from the dollar store. I remembered their faces when I moved out at 23 relieved. Not sad. You've always been so stable, Evelyn. Robert offered. It was the first thing he did all night. You'll be fine. Just a few years of helping and it'll pass. It'll pass. Like kidney stones. Dane's hand curled around her wine stem. Don't act like a victim. It's your turn to contribute. Chelsea always needed more. You've had enough. Hadn't I? The bile rose, but I swallowed it. The past few months were a blur of long hours, quiet victories at work, unopened messages from Emma who answered he'd marry me when the timing was right. And now this. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. I looked at each of them. Chelsea tipsy and triumphant. Robert slouched and resigned. Diane, radiant with enthusiasm. They thought I would fight. I didn't. I just smiled and began recording everything from that day on. They never called it manipulation. They called it transition. The word itself, transition, felt sticky and whitened, like syrup turned rancid. In our house, transition doubloons in the dinners or shared recipes. It was obedience coated in saccharine smiles. It was accepting Dane's decisions as gospel because Robert never dared challenge her. I stared at my laptop screen rows of figures blaring into one another. The office buzzed behind me, phones, printer hums, clipped footsteps. But I was somewhere else, somewhere colder. Chelsea was the captain when she crashed the Volvo into the new fence. I remember the sound, twisted metal, shattering glass, my pulse tightening in my ears. I had warned her not to take it. She didn't even have a license yet. Diane slept in before the dust settled. Claimed the teenage son had taken the car for a joyride. Insurance paid out. Chelsea cried prettily. Diane glared at me like I was disloyal for flinching at the lie. I glanced toward Mue's desk. She was new, efficient, quiet. A bit of a mystery the way she moved through files like decoding puzzles. She didn't look over. We didn't spoken yet, but I had a feeling she more than she said. Back to the screen. Bank statement October. Another line items totals. Then a red flag. $9,200 withdrawn on September 14 th. I leaned closer. What the hell? I opened my calendar, cross-referenced the date. I was in Boston all-day conference. I never touched my Albany account that week. Definitely not for that amount. I checked the transaction log. The funds had been transferred to C. Goli's Holdings. Golis. Her last name legally changed after her second failed startup attempt. My throat tightened. They felt heavier suddenly, like the office was shrinking around me. I opened another document, my student loan summary. Back in college, Diane had insisted on handling 80. You're too busy studying, she said, giving her red nails over the FAFSA printouts. Let me take care of 80. You'll thank me later. I never did. I never even looked. Now I pulled up my old records, scanned the application signatures, and froze. Two of the forms had the same signature, mine, and yet not. The loop on they was off, the slant too clean. I don't make my will like that. I looked closer. The date on the form September 14 th. I was in Boston. I had the boarding pass saved in my email, the panel photo from the conference. There was no way I could have signed anything in person. I reached for my folder and flipped to the bank withdrawal form. Same loop T, same to slant. They always assumed the W didn't notice. They were right until now. In this family, we inherit debt, guilt, and silence. Love is optional. The front door creaked open like it had been waiting for me a little too eager. It didn't be here in months, maybe longer. Still, the sentence changed. A mixture of lemon polish, fabric softener, and something faintly sour underneath, like neglected truth. Diane greeted me with a rehearsed smile. We thought we'd stay outside. Clearer helps keep the tone civil. I followed her through the kitchen, passing the same photos I had grown up with. The graduation high school, and some vague accelerated business. My college photo, big white contrast, was tucked in a frame too small for its print barely visible in the hallway shadow. The backyard looked like a Pinterest board had vomited all over it. String lights, a new fire pit, fluffed throw pillows on wicker chairs that had never seen a storm. All so painfully curated, also fake. Chelsea was already out there sipping something green from a mason jar. Her sunglasses were designer oversized. Her smile was real, at least for her. It usually meant she was getting away with something. We just want to talk. Diane began, hands folded like a politician. No accusations, no drama, just clarity. I sat back, straight, fingers folded in my lap like I was attending a funeral. Chelsea's business is on the brink. If we don't help now, Diane continued, her voice, deepening to tremble for effect range. She could lose everything. You know what that means? Chelsea shrugged. Whatever. I lived with less. But let me pretend you've ever had it hard, Evelyn. You've a job, no kids, no loans. You live in a condo downtown with granite counters. That line again. No kids, no husband, no struggle. My jaw tightened, but I said nothing. That was the game, WAT. If I spoke, I'd be dramatic. If I did, I'd be cold. My eyes drifted to the patio table. A folder sat there, unassuming, half closed. A piece of paper poked out just enough to catch the breeze. I tilted my head. A name. My name sharp and clean. Evelyn May Collins. We added you to the search engineer form, Diane said casually like it was about a potluck list. It's just a technicality. You're not responsible for anything. It's just safer this way. Legal assurance, Chelsea added, smirking. You've due the better credit. My heart thudded, but I kept my face calm. They thought that mattered. The calmness was agreement. I reached for my phone and tapped the camera. Quiet, discreet. One photo, then another. Robert sat off to the side, silent as ever, until he w'd. We had to use your name, he said, not meeting MYIs. Your credit's better. I stood up slowly. The chair creaked behind me. They used my name. And now they learn what that name's really do. Every lie leaves a footprint, even if it's hidden under decades of dust. The apartment was silent, save for the soft hum of my laptop and the occasional rustle of paper. Έτσι δεν ήταν. Έτσι δεν moved much in hours. The screen spell glow painted shadows across my walls, making the room feel smaller, tighter. Maya sat on the floor, legs folded beneath her. A pile of printed statements spread like a collapsed house of cards around her. We didn't spoken much, just enough to know she was judging. Just watching, thinking, she tilted her head. Do you always organize big wide date? Usually, I said, dragging a file into a new folder. Helps me see patterns. She gave a soft grunt of approval and reached for another document. Jason's voice buzzed in my ear from the speakerphone. Forgery tied to a mortgage over $500,000. That's serious, Evelyn. Really serious. I rubbed my temple. I figured. He sighed. You'll need to prove two things. 1. That you didn't authorize the signatures. 2. That Sangha materially benefited without your consent. That means records, emails, travel logs, witnesses. I have flight receipts, conference, photos. Good. But you'll need more. A timeline, a trail. Maya tapped one of the sheets. Look at this. All three Sullivan documents. This one from 2018, then one in 2020, and now this year's mortgage. All signed when you were out of state. I leaned over. Let me see. Sure enough, September 2018, I was in Chicago. June 2020, Denver. September 2023, Boston. 3 different years, 3 different cities. We all perfectly coinciding with these agreements. That is a pattern, Maya said, eye sharp now. No way. It's coincidence. A shiver crawled up my spine. Jalen's voice cut back in. That helps, especially if you since so sang a new UW available those days. I hesitated, then opened a file and looked at the years. Password protected, buried 3 folders deep. One of Mgun's old Gmail export side debugged them pages during a family tech panic she had. Inside, I searched for Kiger's Evelyn cosign mortgage. One email stood out. Dated 2 days before the 2023 withdrawal from Diane Collins to Wells Fargo mortgage. What? Subject paperwork follow-up. I'll send the document signed by Evelyn shortly. She's away, but I have what I need. I froze. Jason said nothing for a moment. That's something. It's not definitive, but it's a start. Keep everything timestamped. Backed up. Assume nothing is private. Maya glanced up. Encrypted cloud. I nodded, already uploading. Jason cleared his throat. You've got a kiss, but you'll need a lot more than suspicion. The call ended. For a long moment, we didn't speak. Then Maya turned towards me, eyes unreadable, but certain, ready to turn on the light. They said, smile more. So I did. Then I lit the match. Rain scraped across the window like fingernails against glass. The thunder did roll. It growled low and persistent like something ancient pacing in the distance. My apartment flickered between shadows and candlelight. The storm had knocked the power out, but it blew complaining. Silence helped. The printer spit out the 34 page of documentation, bank records, flight logs, emails, signatures compared side by side. Maya knelt beside the output tray hands fast and practiced stacking the growing pile with surgical precision. Her presence was a comedy when needed. She paused the printer momentarily. Want to review again? I shook my head. No, it's solid. A notification pinned on my phone. Voicemail. Unknown number. I opened it curious and hit play. Elsa's voice burst into the room like perfume in stale air. Sweet, smug, intoxicating. Ugh. Who's going to kill me if she finds out I sent that email pretending to be you? Only did I take as it had to look real. I copied that signature from your graduation card, by the way. Nailed it, right? Anyway, delete this, obviously. Love you, sis. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. Maya turned slowly toward me. I played it again and again. Each time her voice hissed deeper into my bones. Not even fear, just insult. Like it blew real to her, just a convenient tool. Send that to me, a message, voice called. I recorded the voicemail externally named the file voice Chelsea impersonation and stored it on 3 different drives local cloud and the USB stick I hid in a ceramic sugar jar no one ever touched. Jason John via Zoom half an hour later face half lit bees on candlelight the notice is ready letter no court yet just. Γονείς shots you seen deliver in 72 hours or not at all but once we start we can't stop midstream he sounded tired but underneath that was something else. Respect like it crossed some threshold in his eyes. Maya brought 2 mugs of the steaming gently. She handed me one and sat beside the papers. I wrote a poem once she said half smiling. When the fruit rots you plant the seed. I stared into the candlelight girls heavy and whiten. Then time to plant. I turned the printer back on. Pages 35 through 42 fluttered out like feathers. I didn't rush. I wanted to feel it. When the last page printed, I gathered the entire stack and clipped it tight. No shaking hands, no second thoughts. I walked to the closet and pulled out an old stationery box, dusty, untouched. Inside were embossed envelopes and my mother once gave me with a note for serious correspondence. How fitting. I wrote a letter, simple, concise. And I didn't need it to the court. Not yet. I addressed it to Aunt Marianne's older sister, a woman who'd always smiled politely at family dinners, who ran her own accounting firm, and once told me, your mother has power because no one ever calls her bluff. I called it. I sealed the envelope, tucked in the copies, and pressed the stamp hard with my thumb. The storm outside didn't scare me, because for once, I was the one bringing thunder. You know what is worse than betrayal when it's signed in your name? The colder inside the bank lobby beat harder than the October wind outside. Everything smelled faintly of pine-scented cleaning spray and polished metal, too clean, too impersonal. I stood quietly in front of the teller counter holding a folder of email statements and receipts like armor. Miss Healy, a voice called softly. I turned. A woman in her 50s with silver blonde hair tied in a precise bun stood by the frosted glass door labeled Customer Account Services. M. Sylvia Kramer. You requested emails on record review. Yes, and we was standing regarding a home equity loan connected to Robert and Diane Hill. Mortgage dated August 14 th, amount $523. Sylvia blinked. That's creative file, I'm aware. She led me into a small office walls lined with framed compliance certificates and outdated promotional posters. The overhead lighting buzzed faintly. On the desk, a slim file already waiting. She pulled it closer. I have the hard copy. You'll want to see this. She opened to the signature page, and there it was. My name signed in cursive. Evelyn R. Hill. They called the wheel always wrote it, but the loop was slightly too wide. The press are different. I studied it carefully. She asked when was this form processed? Sylvia stamp. August 14 th, 2023. Processed at 2:12 p.m. I pulled out my phone and tapped open in archived email thread. The subject line reads Chicago Tech Summit Panel Confirmations. The timestamps were clear. I had been speaking on stage that day. Out of state, publicly documented. Could you scan this? A printout and pointed to the mortgage document. Both. Hi Res, please, she hesitated. We normally don't please, I said, voice low but firm. I'm not accusing anyone yet. But this signature is not mine. I have the legal right to dispute it. Sylvia looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. As the scanner word to life, I pulled out my phone again and called Jason. He picked up immediately. I'm at the bank, I said. Did you get IT? I have the original signature file. They let me scan it. The handwriting dual a match. Individual location proof. IW even in the state. Jason was quiet for a bit. Then good. Send it to me encrypted. I'll prepare an affidavit for you to sign. We're starting the forgery case now. I hit send the second. Sylvia emailed the scans to my secure cloud folder. When I turned back, she was looking at another note inside the file. She frowned. There is something else, she said softly. This file was accessed 3 times the week before approval, all BYWL can request. I raised an eyebrow. Who? She leaned closer. Diane Hill came in personally 3 times, and once she brought Chelsea. My hands tightened around the file edge. Did they say anything odd? She paused only that they needed to finalize family paperwork before the window closed, and they asked if a signature could be added later since you were traveling but had consented. That seemed odd but not illegal. My jaw clenched. Of course, they'd preemptively excuse my absence. I stood sliding the file back toward her. Thank you for your time. She gave me a nod, small but not without sympathy. Good luck, Miss Hill. I hope things work out fairly. As I walked back out into the cold wind, I tapped a note into my phone. Sylvia Kramer, potential witness. Document access log confirmed. IWL scared. Not anymore. They left a trace. Now it's my turn to follow it back to the source. You don't have to raise your voice when your evidence speaks louder than anyone scream. It was a quiet evening, the kind that used to lull me into thinking nothing bad could happen under soft lighting and a cup of tea. Now silence was a war drum. I sealed the envelope slowly, methodically, like I was preparing a surgical strike. Inside printed copies of forged bank documents, the email from Diane to the bank, and the withdrawal form signed with my name on a date I had proof I was hundreds of miles away. On top, a single sticky note in my handwriting in case you forgot what you signed on my behalf. No threats, no warnings, just a mirror held up to their lies. Maya watched from the kitchen, arms folded, not asking if I was sure. She didn't need to. We'd crossed the line where questions were luxuries. The memory hit me without warning, sitting in our old living room, maybe 9 or 10, arguing that Etchen spilled the juice on the new rug. Dane's voice had sliced through my defense. Good daughters don't argue. They take responsibility. I had nodded cheeks burning even though it's late night. That night, I learned guilt could be gifted like a necklace tied around your throat, beautiful enough to distract. I walked to the post box in my building's lobby. The metal door clanged shut with finality. My hands were steady, too steady. The phone ran at 9:17 p.m. and didn't even check the ID. I knew Evelyn Dane's voice, smooth as ever, laced with the irritation of someone forced into an unpleasant chore. This is beneath you. I sat back on the couch, phone on speaker. Maya stood behind me, her presence combat grounding. You overreacting, Diane continued. We did what we had to for the family. Your sister, she is fragile. You've always been the strong one. I didn't speak right away. Let her feel the silence. Let her believe I was still that girl still learning guilt by proximity. You'll hear from me, I said finally, each word slow chosen. Not today, but soon. Diane scoffed the way someone does when they think they still hold the higher ground. Then the line clicked dead. Maya walked over, placed a hand gently on the stack of documents beside me. They underestimated you, she said. That is their biggest mistake. I opened my laptop hard, not racing, but humming a low, steady current of intent. On Facebook, I typed a single sentence. Blood wouldn't entitle you to ruin someone's life. I hesitated only a second before clicking post. The likes came fast. Familiar names, distant names, a few mutuals I'd spoken to since college. But one name made me pause. Marie Lanston. Aunt Marie. The post gets 84 likes. One of them from Aunt Marie. Jason gave me 72 hours. That's all I needed to light the fuse. The city outside his office window shimmered in the early November gloom. Grey skies, the rascal leaves of autumn still clinging desperately to the sidewalks. I sat across from him in the Glasgow conference room, the stack of documents between us growing higher by the minute. There was something strangely poetic about plotting a war in silence surrounded by legal pads and printer toner. Email logs check. Bank statements check. Signed affidavit from your employer placing you out of state during the signing dates also check, Jason said, flipping through the final folder. I had gone through each piece of paper with Maya the night before, every halite and sticky note a thread connecting their deceit. We didn't speak much. The silence had turned sacred ritualistic. It was in that quiet that I finally heard MW on conviction. Jason turned his laptop to face me and the voicemail I plugged in MW phone played in a chirpy confession. "N's going to kill me if she finds out I sent that email pretending to be you." He leaned back. It's damning, but it almost feels like satire. "She's always had a flair for that," I said, eye sharp. "Except now it's not so funny." A legal clerk entered and handed over a form. Jason scanned IT, then slid IT across to me. "This is IT. Complaint for identity theft, financial fraud, and misrepresentation. Once you sign, we file." The pen felt heavier than it should have, like I was signing away a version of myself I had carried for too long. The obedient daughter, the silent witness I signed. Jalen's expression changed. No longer the measured professionalism of a lawyer, but something softer, respect, maybe, or concern. They may try to countersue or spin a narrative of elder care family misunderstandings. Anything to muddy the water. "I hope they do," I said. "Let them talk. I have the receipts." Maya, who had been reviewing a separate binder, finally spoke. "With chronological data, digital timestamps, voice evidence, and a clear paper trail. Their narrative won't survive the first round of questioning." Jason nodded. "Then the next step is this." He composed an email on his screen. The subject line stark and simple. "Notice of legal action. Evelyn Brooks v. Diane and Chelsea Brooks." She said Diane Chelsea. En Sanganu. I leaned in. Regional Compliance Director Jason's smile was razor sharp. "It is make sure the bank knows who they've been dealing with." I reviewed the email. Every sentence was surgical. No anger, no insult, just fact, just truth. And my finger hovered over the touchpad for a moment before I pressed send. There was no grand explosion, no flash of light, but I felt the detonation inside me. Jason looked at me carefully. "You've done everything right. Are you ready for what comes next?" I turned toward the window. Outside, a woman in a red coat rushed across the plaza below, holding her umbrella against the wind. I watched her disappear into the blur of traffic. For the first time, I said softly, "I finally am." He tapped the laptop shut. Then we ate. But I didn't plan to wait idly. Back home that evening, I prepared the second strike. I drafted a detailed timeline of events, linked documents to cloud folders, and scheduled a release locked under encryption with Jason and my AES suit holders of the access key, a silent insurance policy. Even pulled the family photo from a drawer, the same one where it had been awkwardly cropped to the edge. I scanned IT, ran a marker across MY on image, and saved it as a new file name, reclamation JPEG. Then I composed one last email, just a copy of the formal letter with 3 names in CC. Diane, Chelsea, the bank's regional director. The letter was signed, the line was drawn, and I had no plans to erase it. They said again to 4. Funny how far I had to go just to be heard. It hadn't been invited, not officially. Diane had sent out the family mail thread for the early Christmas gathering, just a small get-together, nothing dramatic, and conveniently left my name out of the recipients. But I knew, of course, I knew. Aunt Mies tagged her in a photo of the Golan-strewn living room. And there it was. The setup, the wine glasses, the smug smiles, an ambush disguised as a holiday cheer. I showed up anyway. No warning. Just walked through the front door like someone who still belonged. The room hushed when I entered the way room quiets for a eulogy. Chelsea was the first to react. Her mascara was already smudged stage makeup for the performance to come. "I'm not a thief," she cried the moment she saw me. "I'm your sister." And my hands were steady. "Yes, you are." Diane stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder like a director cueing an actress. "She is mentally unstable," she said to the room, her voice clear and practiced. "This crusade of hers will destroy you all." "For what?" "Some paperwork. A misunderstanding. A chorus of murmurs rose from cousins and second people who barely knew my birthday, but were suddenly ready to vote on my sanity. I walked to the coffee table. No one stopped me. From my bag, I pulled out a brown folder and set it down gently like I was offering communion. This is a notarized copy of the withdrawal form signed in my name, I said calmly. The date on it is October 12th. I was in Chicago speaking at a finance conference. There is timestamped email proof, flight receipts, a room booked under my name. That signature I tapped the papers in mine. Chelsea Gimpard. Diane went rigid. Robert has always said nothing. Then Aunt Marie rose. Not a whisper, not a dramatic flourish, just a quiet, deliberate motion as she picked up the document. Her eyes scanned it slowly, her breath barely audible over the hum of Hollanday music still playing from Sonia's phone in the kitchen. Is this true, Diane? She asked, voice rough as sandpaper. Diane opened her mouth, but no words came. It was beautiful. The silence that followed W. awkward. W. confused. It was tense and loaded and meaningful. A family trained to ignore discomfort, now choking on it. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to cry. Let them call me heartless. It's better than being voiceless. Turns out betrayal W. the worst thing I inherited. The clinic smelled like sterilized air and unsaid things. I sat on the paper-lined exam table, the crackling under me louder than my heartbeat. Outside, the frosted window Saturday afternoon tried to shine through, but the fluorescent lighting above swallowed every ounce of warmth. Sylvia entered holding a file too thin to hold, comfort too thick to ignore. Her brow was drawn, lips pressed into a line that knew too much. You're B positive, she said quietly. I blinked. Okay. According to the birth records your mother submitted for your insurance profile, Diane is type A, Robert is type O, and Sylvia hesitated. Two A and O parents can't have a B positive child. The paper in her hand suddenly gave date on. That doesn't make sense, I muttered, but my voice betrayed me because a part of me had always known. Dylan's voice over the phone later that afternoon was less gentle. You sure Dani is your biological mother? I stared at the ceiling of my apartment, still in the same sweater from the clinic, unable to move. She's always hated when I asked about baby pictures. Said they were lost in the flood. Except we never had a flood. Jason was quiet for a bit. Do you want me to run a check? We'll start with hospital records, birth registry. No, I said not yet. I need to find something first. What I found hidden in a vault or under floorboards. It was in a box of old Christmas junk Diane had dropped off years ago when they were decluttering. I never opened it. Too painful, too meaningless until now. Amid broken ornaments and yellowed greeting cards, I found a photo. A hospital room, a newborn wrapped in pink. But the woman holding her Diane. She was younger with curly brown hair Diane never had. Her eyes were tired but soft. Her arms cradled the infant like Diane afraid of breaking her. The back of the photo read 2 days old. My hand shook, not from fear, from the slow detonation of realization. Had Diane adopted me without telling anyone? Had she lied to everyone? Me and Robert, the entire family. Or worse, had she stolen me? Assumed Colenigan. Not yet. Not Jason. Not Maya. This evidence for court. This was a fault line under my entire identity. I turned the photo over again, hoping stupidly for a signature, a note, anything. There was nothing but the faded ink and the weight of everything I didn't know. They stole my money. Maybe they stole my name, too. Some ghosts don't haunt you. They stand behind you in court. The wooden bench beneath me was cold. Its surface polished by years of quiet suffering and verdicts no one celebrated. Courtroom 4B in Albany was nothing like the grand courtrooms you see in legal dramas. It was plain, bleak. Fluorescent lighting cast a sterile wash over the pews. But even in that light, I could see the foundation cracking beneath her pounder. Jason sat beside me, composed as ever, flipping through our printed exhibits with fingers that never shook. On the other side of the room, Chelsea fidgeted in a too-tight blazer-eyes dart into her phone, then to the clock, then to me. Judge Harrow entered promptly at Enea, thin, wither of someone who had long ago stopped caring about theatrics. He adjusted his glasses, looked down at the case file, and said, "Let's begin." Jason stood first. Your Honor, This is a preliminary hearing concerning identity theft and fraudulent use of personal financial data. We have submitted notarized evidence of forged signatures, digital communications confirming intent, and an audio recording from the defendant, Chelsea Pearson, acknowledging impersonation. He passed the thick binder forward. The clerk accepted it without comment. Pages rustled, footsteps echoed. I kept my hands folded. Dane's attorney tried to speak, but Diane interrupted. She leaned forward, tone brittle, but rehearsed. Your Honor, our daughter Evelyn has often permitted you to handle documents on her behalf. It was an understood family shorthand. Nothing was done maliciously. Jason raised an eyebrow, but didn't smile. Not $523 worth of shorthand. The glasses flicked from Jason to Diane. Miss Pearson, are you certain that your daughter authorized this mortgage? I'm saying she trusted us. Always has. And yet Jason said she was in Chicago on the date of the alleged signature. She has travel receipts, timestamped conference materials, and 3 independent witness statements. There was silence. Not because we were done, but because the lies were unraveling and everyone knew it. Chelsea looked down. Her hands trembled. I was asked to speak. I answered clearly, calmly. Only what was necessary. No embellishment, no tears, just facts, just voice. When Judge Harrow finally said further forensic analysis of the signatures will be ordered, and my breath stayed steady. He ended, hearing is adjourned until findings return estimated 4 weeks. I stood. Maya, seated in the back, offered the faintest nod. The kind that said, I see you now fully. As we filed out, Jason whispered, you did well. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Outside, the February wind beat through my coat. Chelsea stumbled on the last step of the courthouse stairs. Her heel twisted. A small gasp escaped her lips. I didn't turn around. Didn't offer a hand. They arrived holding lies. I left holding silence and momentum. Turns out the golden child shines only until light hits the dirt beneath. The night before the hearing, my apartment was still. Maya had gone home hours earlier. Disney final email had come and all exhibits prepared. Get some rest. But rest wasn't coming. Not tonight. I sat by the window sipping cold tea that had long since given up on warmth. Staring out into the flickering city lights. The gate of everything hovered not as fear but as gravity. At 7:43 my phone buzzed. Sylvia incoming courier. Something you'll want to see before court. By 8:05 the envelope was in my hands. A flash drive. A single page note. Bank archives confirmed. Footage attached. Jason reviewed it in his office monitor while I watched silently. Chelsea walking into the bank. Nervous glance at the camera, talking too fast, pen in hand. The signature was careful, too careful. She hesitated before signing my name. Jason exhaled. This is the nail. We entered courtroom 4B just before 900 there was different today. Electric. Diane and Chelsea were already seated. Neither looked back. Judge Harrow didn't waste time. Emma Rivers, you mentioned your material. Jason nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Security footage from the Capital Union Bank dated September 18, 2023 shows Ms. Chelsea Pearson signing a financial document under the name of Evelyn Pearson without consent. He handed over the drive. The judge watched the footage in silence, his expression unreadable. His attorney shifted uncomfortably. We request time to review. Judge Harrow cut him off. This is preliminary. Yes, but the footage is damning. Chelsea burst out. AWLMY. She said pointed to Diane voice cracking. She said Evelyn W. cared that she never know. The room went quiet. Diane, still immaculate in her cream suit, did return. Her jaw clenched, hands folded, eyes fixed on some invisible stain in the grain of the bench. The judge leaned forward. Miss Pearson, this court recognizes your distress, but distress does not excuse felony fraud. Ilse's voice rang. I didn't mean I thought, Evelyn, I said nothing. I didn't need to. I just looked at her, looked at both of them. The silence hurt them more than any accusation. Jason folded his arms. We asked the court to proceed with formal charges. Judge Harrow nodded slowly. Preliminary evidence supports identity fraud. Formal charges pending review. Court is adjourned until March 14th. Outside, the wind had turned sharp. Chelsea leaned against the courthouse wall, head in her hands. Diane stood 3 podi away, but they might as well have been strangers. They collapsed in silence. I stood alone still, but not small. The empire of guilt collapsed quietly like an old house too proud to creak. Spring in Albany came reluctantly that year. The trees were just beginning to blush green again, hesitant after a winter that had overstayed its welcome. And I found myself walking up the steps of the small stone church it's entered in over a decade, dressed in black, not for mourning, but for observation. Ms. Ellery had passed. She was a family, but she had been close to the family. Choir leader, gossip queen, informal matriarch of every Sunday bake sale. Of course, everyone would be there, including Diane. The sanctuary smelled of leaves and old wood polish. Soft organ music echoed. I arrived early, sat in the back, Maya beside me, quiet and steady. Then I saw him, Robert. He walked in alone, grey suit, pressed shirt, no tie. He looked older than I remembered, tired in a way that went deeper than age. He scanned the rooms and saw me. I expected him to look away, but he didn't. He walked slowly down the aisle and sat 3 rows ahead on the far side, still alone. The service was brief, the eulogy uninspired, but the hallway afterward buzzed small talk whispers, sideways glances. I heard them when named has before I even stepped into the vestibule. She is here. She is the one suing her own mother. I let it roll off me. I was past needing their approval. Diane arrived late. She didn't look at me, not once. Her lips were pressed so tight they could have drawn blood. She sat alone, too. 3 pews behind Robert. Even they weren't knitted together anymore. Later in the church garden, the family handled. Someone tried to start a prayer circle. Someone else offered many kicks. Then Robert approached me. He looked like he'd rehearsed every word for weeks. I should have stopped her. His voice wasn't just soft. It was hollow, like something had broken and it's from the will to fix itself. I studied him, then said, "You still sin." That was all. No embrace, no absolution, just a door cracked open. Behind us, a cousin Ethel Sneer stepped closer. "We didn't know," she said. "We really was that bad." Another nod from someone else, a hand on MY's shoulder. Not forgiveness, but recognition. Diane stood appalled. A priest approached her, then shook his head. Word had spread since being quietly removed from the church board. Too much scandal, they said. Too many whispers, no ceremony, no confrontation, just absence. And as we stood in the fading sun, the breeze carrying faint hints of tulips and moss. Robert turned slightly. He didn't speak again. He just gave one small nod. To me, forgiveness is a nod. But sometimes they knock softly. Some victories don't roar. They whisper, and that is enough. The envelope sat on Jason's desk, thick with signatures, seals, and closure. He slid it toward me slowly, like handing over something fragile and antique, or a newborn truth. His eyes searched mine for something relief maybe or satisfaction, but I felt neither, just stillness. "You officially out," he said. Chelsea assumes full liability for the loan. Diane has forfeited claim on any shared assets. And the court acknowledges you were never legally informed of the mortgage arrangement. He paused. You also regained 75% of your inheritance in full effective immediately. The word inheritance made me think of family photos, no documents, of Sunday roses and birthday candles. But now it felt like unclaimed property, something I had to unlock from a vault no one told me I owned. I nodded. Jason leaned back. You did IT. I thought about correcting him, about saying I survived IT, but instead I just whispered, "Thanks." Outside, Albany was waking up to spring. Bats pushing through dirt like survivors. The sidewalk was still wet from morning rain, the kind that cleaned more than IT ruined. I walked home alone. The manila envelope tucked under my arm like a shield I no longer needed. When I opened the door to my apartment, Maya was there, sitting on the floor, sorting through donation boxes and old tax receipts. She looked up, reading my expression like a mood ring. It's done, I said. She stood and didn't hug me, just offered a high five. I took it. It felt right. On the kitchen counter, the electric kettle clicked off. I poured 2 mugs of chamomile. She said, "I'll go on a picnic this weekend somewhere with no reception." I smiled. You planning to kidnap me? Only your phone. We laughed, and for the first time in months, I didn't seem like a defense mechanism. Later that night, I started packing. Not escaping, just shifting. I found a new apartment downtown. Smaller, simpler, but with a southern window and a reedy nook. I didn't want square footage. I wanted the rest. I folded a sweater into a box. My phone buzzed. Email from Diane L. Gitmore. Subject, none. I hesitated before opening it. Then curiosity outweighed caution. Evelyn, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this, but I hope you're free now. I didn't scroll down. Didn't need to. I clicked archive and turned off the phone. Some words don't end with treaties, they end with silence. That night, I labeled the last cardboard box in thick black ink. Keep. Inside were only 5 things. My passport, a weird poem, a photo of me at age 10 on a tire. Signed a letter from Jason and a matchbox from the diner where I first decided not to stay quiet. Freedom didn't come with fireworks. It came with packing tape and silence. My name used to be a weapon they yielded. Now it's a flag I carry. The lake barely moved that morning, only a breath of wind now, and then racing ripples over the Hudson like fingers through silk. My coffee steamed in its ceramic cup balanced on the edge of the wooden deck. In the distance, a gull cried sharp and clear. No cars, no voices, no Diane. I'd only been in the new house for a week. It was small intentionally, just enough space for living and none for shadows. The windows faced east catching sunrise like it owed me. I didn't hang family photos. I framed them up instead places and never been but might. The phone buzzed. Jason Judge signed final dismissal. Case closed. No appeals filed. I read it twice. Not for disbelief, just for the quiet power in those 3 syllables. Case closed. I didn't reply immediately. Just looked at the sangorm in the rim of my mug. Inside, Maya was at the kitchen table, scrolling notes in that poetic shorthand of hers. Phrases that could be mistaken for riddles if you didn't know her. She looked up and slid a folded sheet across to me. "A doubloon going to show you," she said, "but now feels right." It was a letter. No date, no greeting. You didn't just reclaim your name. You reclaimed the silence they used as armor. You turned it into sound, into steps forward, into proof. You saved more than your identity. You saved the version of yourself they tried to edit out. And I saw it happen. All of it. Thank you for not disappearing. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I folded the letter once, then again, and slipped it into my wallet right behind my ID. The phone buzzed a second time. Chelsea, I know I can't undo it, but I hope someday you'll forgive me. No punctuation, no emojis, just static emotion on a screen. I didn't type anything back. There was nothing to say that it's already been said in gorgeous silence in the way I walked away without needing her to watch. Later that afternoon, Maya knocked gently on the door frame of my studio room. You sure about the panel? I nodded. I mean, standing in front of people telling them not everything I interrupted just enough. The conference hall near Beacon was small, intimate, folding chairs, modest mic setup, a Banahan overhead, had some women's forum, financial freedom through personal truth. I sat beside 2 other speakers, a CP and a former IRS investigator. They smiled politely. I offered one back. When they called my name, I read the first time in over a year I'd heard it said without tension attached to it. I walked up slowly. No notes, just a single sentence printed on the inside of my palm with a black gel pen. I stood under soft stage lights and let him waze just not to the glare but to the gate. They took him my name, I began. I took it back. and I'm not done. No applause yet. Just held breaths, tilted hands. I continued measured honest, never venomous. I told them how easy it was to go unnoticed when you look high at and how dangerous it when people assume you'll stay that way. I told them about trust histed into chains, about paperwork turned into traps, and how in reclaiming my autonomy, I found something better than vengeance clarity. I didn't mention Chelsea Big Win name or Diane or the courtrooms or signatures. But the room felt empty. They heard the echo beneath every word. When I stepped down, someone touched my shoulder in the aisle. An older woman, grey streak in her braid. We'd really gone through something similar, she said. Thank you for giving us language. That night, I returned home alone. I unpacked nothing. Just lit a single candle, sat on the windowsill, and watched the lights flicker across the lake. Justice came late, but now it echoes through me. They tried to rewrite my life with forged ink and silenced guilt. But truth, when given time and a voice burns cleaner than any lever could. Like the final note of a long-buried symphony, justice didn't arrive on time, but it echoed for beyond the verdict. No wall of lies shall stand forever against the tide of truth. If this story moved, you don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and drop a comment. 1. If you felt the echo of justice, or 2. If you think it could have gone further.